All right, everyone. The Supreme Court, link in the description archived, of course, has decided to take up a case. Is it allowed that the chief executive is allowed to fire people that are in explicitly executive roles? Specifically, in this case, with Rachel Slaughter of the FTC. Lower court, of course, blocking the attempt by Trump to fire an individual for not doing her job. And the court said, no, you're not allowed to do that. Yeah, Congress gave you executive purview quite explicitly. But there's this old law from the 1930s that doesn't actually allow you to fire her for no cause. Now, how do you establish cause in the case of politics? The cause could be, hey, I think you're corrupt. Hey, there's an allegation against you. Hey, anything under the sun. There's your cause. The cause is I just don't goddamn like you. This is an executive branch sort of decision-making process. I have a feeling that the Supreme Court will actually side with Trump on this. Again, you've got the can of worms sensation here. If Trump is ruled against, it means that he has to deal with people in the heads of federal bureaus that are not actually working with him, they're working against him. If you do side with Trump, you are handing that power to future executives. In some cases, executives that you may not want to have the bureau heads work with. Like, for example, the whole Joe Biden weaponizing federal bureaus to spy on people and censor them thing, which went over so well. Schellenberger and others, Taibbi exposing that with the Twitter leaks, among other things. Even Zuckerberg, and he's pro-censorship, even Zuckerberg was weighing in saying it was weird. When Zuckerberg thinks that you're weird, you must be like, I don't know how many drugs you had to use to get that way, but basically you must be living as a hermit and spouting conspiracy theories about how little green men anally probed you or something like that. That's the level of Zuckerberg weirdness that you would have to exceed. The fact that the Supreme Court has to be consulted as to whether the chief executive can fire people in executive positions, to me, is insane. The fact that the lower court sided against Trump just shows the judicial activism of the court system. This is why I think the Supreme Court has been so busy lately, and much more visible, because the lower courts have been stacked by a bunch of Biden appointees that will literally stand in the way of things that are objectively and observably constitutional. That is, that it's lawful for Trump to do them, but they won't let him do them. It was funny because the lower courts didn't attempt to stop Joe Biden when he was attempting to give aid under the lockdownerist, the face diaper period. He was trying to give aid to restaurant workers and farmers and shit like that, based partially on race and things like that. You know, we need more gay black farmers, and so we're going to give them free money. This was literally a program that he attempted to incept. It was clearly unconstitutional. It clearly runs afoul of equal treatment under the law on multiple levels. The lower courts were resistant to even bothering to weigh in on these things. SCOTUS had to get involved. In Trump's case, things that he's doing that are clearly constitutional, for example, firing someone in a head executive position under his purview, enacted, yes, originally by Congress, created by the legislature, but in the FTC's vein, simply under executive purview. That is, the legislature incepted it, and then it went on its merry way. It became an executive bureaucratic agency. The idea that the Supreme Court has to decide whether Trump is capable of firing people who aren't doing a proper job, to me, is evidence of a judicial sickness within the country. And we do have a judicial sickness. The justice system is a joke. I know this firsthand. Uh, on several occasions. Including going back many, many, many years. Things that I don't like to talk about. Just saying. Trump clearly has the right to fire the FTC commissioner for negligence. I mean, again, the litmus test is it has to have reasonable cause. Who determines the reasonable cause? See, if the chief executive is reigning over an executive office, you would think that he himself is the determinant of what that cause would be. The judiciary was never tasked with this by Congress. The executive branch was tasked with it by Congress. So now the judiciary has the opportunity to cock block the executive branch, or it can simply say, look, yeah, the president of the United States has the ability to fire most federal workers because most of it is under the executive branch. This is quite clear. It is quite clearly legal. So I'm hoping that they make the right decision in this particular case. In the meantime, the FTC is run by a lifelong Democrat who is not cooperative with the Trump administration, hence the reason for the firing. Hey, you're not doing your job. Normally, when people don't do their jobs, they get fined, or they get fired, or they get their pay docked, or something like that. They get punished in some way. Normally, it just leads immediately to firing. Your job is to shuffle papers around, but you didn't shuffle enough papers today. You were spending your whole day at the water cooler. Well, you're fired. Well, that employee is going to have a kind of a hard time suing their employer. In private industry, this is usually not a problem because unless somebody was fired for some discriminatory reason while doing their job properly, generally they're not going to have much of a case, which is why they always claim that there was some sort of workplace discrimination or a hashtag Me Too moment or something like that. That way they can justify keeping their jobs, assuming that they, want to spend 6 months in court litigating or something like that, or they're just looking for a settlement. That happens too. But the idea that the chief executive can't fire people that are heads of executive offices, that's absolutely ludicrous. It's completely asinine. That's about all. Peace out.